Watch this. No way!
Hello and welcome back to the Cookie Jar Golf Podcast. I am Tom Mills and today we have an obscenely exciting episode for you. I am joined by Bruce Fitzpatrick.
Hello.
And we have the 2021 amateur winner, Laird Shepherd. Laird, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, it's been exciting to relive what happened on Saturday, yeah.
So I think I want to start by asking the question I think everybody wants to know. What did you have for lunch? Because something changed.
I had the same thing I had last 3 days, so maybe I found my ideal lunch. Had a baked potato and beans. So
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, you had one of the most outrageous comebacks in amateur golf history. I suppose you've got to start from the beginning. I mean, we need to focus on the final because the final was just absolutely incredible. Going into that second 18, I mean, in the first 18, Monty, he played very, very well, but he was draining some very long putts and chipping in from places. How were you feeling in that first 18 holes?
Yeah, I think the final for me was the most difficult one because the 4 or 5 guys, I can't remember how many matches it was. There must have been 5 guys that I played previously to Monty. I didn't really know very well, and that almost makes it easier to just go out there and you don't have any expectations on how the person's going to play. You just expect them to play well, and obviously I knew Monty quite well, and so it almost makes it a bit more difficult to go and play against him because you are mates, and so that was quite a difficult one for me, I think. But I just he played really well. He played really solid given the pressure and what's on the line. He really did play very well, and his game has improved massively in the last sort of 3 or 4 years. I spoke to him this morning actually on the phone, and was saying that I was so impressed with how he played because 3 years ago we were playing a lot of uni stuff together, and he's come on like leaps and bounds. So I mean, he should be happy about that. But I mean, he played great. He held a lot of putts. He obviously chipped in as well. My caddy actually said to me before he shot on that 6th hole, he said, if he gets us up and down, I'm walking into the clubhouse. And then he chipped in. So, but you have to expect people to do that kind of stuff against you, and it's difficult. I mean, I just wasn't at the races the first round really, and he played really solid. I mean, I ended up just trying to force the issue and push too hard, and ended up free putting a couple of times and just didn't hold anything. And it's just momentum. I mean, match play golf, momentum's so key, and with 36 holes, there's a lot of time for it to go back and forth. So,
how big was that 18th hole there? Because you were 8 down, stood on the 18th tee, and obviously, Monty gets in some trouble off the tee there. You end up winning that. I mean, how kind of important was that? You talk about momentum shift there, going into lunch, being like, right, okay, I've clawed one back there. I mean, what's the sort of internal monologue like in your head? Are you thinking, I'm hitting it pretty good. Like, I just need to tighten a couple of things up and I'll be all right? Or how does that kind of play out when you've got, a bit of time to kill over lunch and obviously, your caddy and other people who you're sort of chatting to?
I mean, having that break was huge, and obviously winning a hole before that break was probably pretty important. To be honest, at the time I didn't really think it was going to matter at all. I was more focused on just not making a really pretty embarrassing scoreline, to be honest with you. I wouldn't say I was overly buoyed by winning one hole on the way in because, you're still 7 down. So I think, I ended up, using that hour and a half we had in between 2 rounds. I didn't really do that much, but I guess it just gave me some time to sort of get rid of that negative emotion and try and just reset a little bit. As anyone who played golf know, when you're in the thick of it, it's really hard to separate yourself and sort of just try and put a line through the morning, for example, and go, we've got a job to do this afternoon. So it was pretty important. Obviously, if I hadn't won that hole, I would have still lost one down. Yeah. So, yeah.
So what do you do in that break? Do you take that time to have a swing, have some putts? You just completely switch off? What is it that you did?
Well, first I got some food because I was hungry. I mean, I lost about 4 kilos during the whole week because I was so nervous I couldn't eat. And barely slept the last 2 nights. I mean, just because I had a feeling that I was going to play well, and so you've got this expectation of, I could win this here, and everything obviously comes along with that. There's a lot to deal with in your head. So I was hungry, so I got some food in me, which is important because I think I was so flat. I was just tired, and then I didn't even bother going to the range because I was hitting it pretty good, and just wanted to save some energy. And to be honest, was over at that point almost. I didn't think I would do anything. I thought I was just going to sit and on my arse until 1:30 came around, and then I'd leave. But I ended up going and hit some putts because I thought, well, I need to sort this out if I've got any hope. Just tried to figure that out a little bit, and I mean that was the difference really, just being able to hold a few more putts in the afternoon. So
did you find that lots of your friends and family were trying to give you advice or give you pep talks, or people just kind of giving you your space and letting you do what you want?
Yeah, I mean I think they gave me a bit of space really. I mean, my girlfriend, my caddy, my dad all sort of said the same sort of things, like it's not over yet. My caddy actually told me a few days ago that he just had a feeling I was going to win still, which is weird because I did not have that feeling. So, but yeah, I think there wasn't really too much said, to be honest. I sat down with my caddy because the rest of the guys weren't allowed in with me in the clubhouse, so it was just me and my caddy. And I said to Andrew, I said, last night there was a lot of ways I was thinking that first 18 holes was going to go, and that was not one of the things I thought was going to happen. So just being able to reset, I think, and actually get on the tee first in the afternoon, that was so huge because you can actually put some pressure on. If you constantly go in second and the other, Monty's hitting in the fairway, there's not really a whole lot you can do to put pressure on him. So I mean, that thankfully there was a break, because if there was not an hour break, I probably would have lost on the 7th hole in the afternoon, to be honest. So,
what's the mentality like? I guess match play in general, really. If and the amateur events that you've played over the past few years, I guess the overwhelming majority are stroke play. But when you're faced with a situation like this, does the mentality change a little bit? I mean, you mentioned there about how important it is to get the honour and just put it in play and kind of apply a bit of pressure. Is that playing into your mindset, or are you just kind of thinking, well, if I can go out and shoot a score of, I don't know, whatever it ends up being, 3-4 under, I think you maybe more than that on the final 18. Is that part of the kind of thought process? How do you approach that?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely how I sort of thought about things. Martin Slumbers actually came and spoke to me after the first round, just because we went to the same school, and he was just wishing me luck, I think. But I said to him, I think I probably need to go and shoot 62. Obviously, I didn't need to do that, but just thinking that obviously, I'm 7 shots, however you want to look at it, behind. And beating someone by 7 shots in a round of golf is not unheard of. So obviously with match play, it's a bit of a different situation because you can't win, cut 2 holes in 1 hole sort of thing. So, but yeah, I mean, I definitely think this week, as you said, we play a lot of stroke play tournaments, and I haven't played in the recent years. I haven't played, a lot of real competitive match play events. I've certainly never played that much match play in the time that you have from Wednesday to Saturday. So it's sort of like learning on the job in terms of how best to go about it. And I think, I worked out that you've just got to be trying to win every hole and at least keeping the honour, because if you keep the honour and keep putting the ball in play, then it makes it, really, really difficult for people to beat you, because there's just that extra bit of pressure on every single tee shot when you know that you're a couple down and, the boy in front of you's hit it down the middle of the fairway. It makes that tee shot so much harder. So that was the main thing I focused on trying to do, just trying to keep the honour. I said it when I was interviewed, I think on 16, I just need to win a hole and just get the honour and try and run with it. And that's sort of what happened in the end. So, yeah.
You said, that perhaps you're being modest, but you just mentioned that you just didn't want to make the score embarrassing and you wanted to go out there and battle for it. 7 down going into the last 18. At what point did it really, hit you and you think, yeah, okay, this is still on. I can. This is a reality now.
Probably around 8 or 9. I think I won the 8th and 9th to go 5 down with 4 down and 9 to play. I think it was. Yeah. I think after that, I did something I never usually do. I asked my caddy to get me a black coffee to keep me awake. So I had a full black coffee walking down the first and second hole. And I said to my caddy on 8, I wish I hadn't had that coffee, because I'm starting to feel a bit like shaky again now because of the caffeine. So and the nerves are kicking in a little bit, which is a good thing. That's what I needed. I didn't have any of those feelings in the first 18 holes. So to have that sort of real focus was due. So yeah, I think after the 8th and 9th, I thought this is definitely on here. I just need to keep going. And then, to be honest, after that, I never really thought I was going to lose for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah, probably about that point around. Yeah.
I guess the last 4 holes, that's when it really came down to. I mean, there was a bit of a momentum change, wasn't there, at certain points where you got it to 4 down, then Monty got back to 5, and I guess when it got to 4 down with 4 to play, and there was no room for error there. Was that just right? I got to concentrate on what I need to do now. Were you kind of feeling almost oddly calm? You mentioned there that it didn't really enter your head that you were going to lose from maybe the 27th or so onwards. Was that kind of what you were feeling with those 4 holes to go?
Yeah, I think obviously you're as a human being, you work best when you know exactly what you need to do. And there was no wiggle room. I knew exactly what I needed to do. So in that sense, it made it quite easy. I just knew I had to win 4 holes in a row. And I'm not saying that I definitely, thought I knew I was going to win. I just sort of had a feeling if I could win a couple, if I could win 15, end up hitting a good drive and getting up and down. And then obviously Monty hit a bit right on 16. I just thought this is going to be really difficult if you put yourself in the other person's shoes. It's a real difficult situation to be in, because you've had time over lunch to think about all the prizes that come with winning. That was not in my head at all. So that, I said to my caddy actually on 13, I said, I've just got to keep using this sort of situation as my advantage, because I can't let myself become nervous and that detract from my performance, because I just can't afford to. So I guess it just made it really easy. And the putts I had on 16 and 17 from, I don't know, both about 5 or 6 feet, maybe 5 or 6 feet. I never really thought about what if. it's just clear, like you've got to hold this putt. So I don't know. I found that a little easier actually. So yeah.
Those last 4 holes, I mean, birdie par. The 17th, I thought, was probably the best match play hole I've ever seen, because you were coming in first and pretty much stiffed it, and then Monty's out to the left. He looks dead for all money. He looks dead, and then he chips up to 20 feet and then pours it in, which means the 6-footer's got to go in. I mean, it's such a match by hole, and the fact that you held that then and went down 18, and that Monty had a putt to win it again on 18. I mean, the emotions, you saw the outpour on the 38th. Like, how hard was it to bury all that? Because you must have been fighting it all the way round.
Yeah, it was, it's sort of like it's hard to describe how I was feeling, because, it's almost like a sort of Matrix moment where things are happening slowly, but they're happening fast at the same time. And, for me, it was quite easy because I knew exactly what I had to do, but it's almost like this like hyper focus. And then once it's over, you're like, you can't believe it's over. And like, I honestly was sort of okay with maybe losing that on the 38th hole, because I thought, well, at least this is going to be over, because it's just, it's such a like mind-bending pressure situation that you think, I'm not sure if I can even keep going. It's weird. Obviously you can, but it just, that what you're about to do here would be unbelievable, and to go so far and then lose on the 38th would have been pretty tough. So
yeah, and talking about mindset in those the second 18, and like you said, you knew exactly what you had to do. Going down the 37th and the 38th, it's a different prospect, isn't it? Because now it's not like I have to win. Now it's like, okay, well, I can half this and carry on. And at that point, now you've suddenly clawed yourself back in. Do the prizes, do the winnings, do they enter the mind, or did you carry on that same mindset down 37, 38?
Yeah, I mean, I probably just stayed in the same sort of mindset, I suppose. What I was thinking is that you just know how difficult that situation must be for your opponent, having been 8 or 7 up after the first 18 holes, to be walking down extra holes, and that's tough. I mean, and to be honest, he handled himself unbelievably.
Yeah.
The obviously the putts he hold on 16 and 17 were serious. Like, I was like, wow, that's impressive. And
chipped up close on one as well. Yeah.
Was so good considering what he must have been feeling like. So I just never, once we were going down those first holes, I just thought, I think this is supposed to happen for me today. So for whatever reason, yeah.
And what was maybe the first thing that entered your mind when you realized you'd won on the 38th? Was it a particular thing that you kind of first thought of? Was it a sense of relief? Was it thinking, I'm going to play the Open? Was it, I'm going to play the Masters? I mean, how does that, I guess there must just be a whole flood of emotions that just hit you when you realize, like, shit, it's over. I'm the amateur champion.
Yeah. I'm not really sure what made me sort of have that outpouring of emotion. My first thought was, I need to go and say well done to Monty. That's like, before you even process what's happened, you got to go and shake hands. And, after that, it was just like, I can't believe that's just happened. There was no sort of thought of what is to come. It was just I can't believe I won that match, really. And and I suppose the underlying reason why I was maybe slightly emotional was just I've had a difficult few years of sort of injuries, and obviously COVID's not been ideal for anyone as well. So there were points where I didn't really think I'd be playing golf for too much longer. So to be able to give yourself an opportunity to play in the best events in the world, and No one can ever take that name off your trophy, sort of thing. So, it's just like obviously there's almost too many things that you get for winning to even think about it, to even sort of comprehend it. I mean, even now, it's probably still not sunk in really.
Listing them out loud it's quite phenomenal, isn't it? With the fact that you get the Masters, the US Open, the Open at St George's, and to add to that, you get to add your name to a trophy that's got Joe Long and Garcia and Gary Wolstenholme and Sir Michael Benalik, Bobby Jones, and fellow Rye member Cyril Tolley. I mean, how does it feel to add that list? I mean, it must be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I can't lie. On the first tee, I was looking at the names, and you see Bobby Jones, and it sort of hits you like he is upper echelon, top tier of any golfer who's ever walked the planet. And to think that your name's going to be scribbled somewhere near to his is pretty surreal. Because, you never. I don't think any player, when they're playing, considers themselves as someone who's going to go on to do amazing things. You've just played that week and you've won. So it's kind of hard to sort of comprehend that you're in some way associated to like one of the all-time greats of the game. So
I guess looking at the week as a whole, it'd be really interesting, Laird, to get your take on. I mean, it is a huge kind of marathon, really, isn't it? I mean, you're playing over the course of almost a whole week. And I guess going into it, you mentioned lockdown and COVID there, and maybe not having as much kind of competitive sharpness as you'd get in a normal year. I mean, what was the mentality going into it, I guess, first and foremost? How did you feel when the day one of stroke play rolled around?
Again, it was made quite easy because it was blowing about 45 miles an hour. That first stroke play day. I mean, I teed off about 1:30. I hit my tee shot on first, hit it about 200 yards. And then lay on the floor for about half an hour because the group on the green, the ball wouldn't stay still. It was just rolling off the green. So I was thinking, wow, we're not going to play in this. We'll be walking back to the clubhouse soon. I'll just chill out here. And then we just continued on. So that was quite a, when the conditions are that tough, you don't have the chance to think about anything but just making it around the golf course. So, I mean, as it went on, I just, played better and better probably. I probably should have lost my quarterfinals, but managed to, scrape through. And then playing Jack Dyer, who obviously played the Walker Cup and a great player, hit a worldie in there. So I just sort of had a feeling as the week went on that things were meant to be, but I would not have said that before the week started. I mean, I missed two cuts in a row, the first two events of this year. I missed by a shot or so at the Scottish, and then a couple shots at the Links Trophy. So there was no indication that was going to be on the horizon. But that's why golf's such a funny game, and you just got to keep going. So.
And you, obviously, the amateurs are held at Nairn. Had you played Nairn before? What did you think of Nairn? It's a fairly testing golf course to be playing in 45-mile-an-hour winds, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I love the golf course. I mean, also it's easy to say now, but I was thinking about walking off after 2 holes in the practice round because it was blowing about 45 as well. I thought, it's pointless, and then looked at the forecast and realised it's exactly what it was going to be next day. So. But no, I said to my housemates on Sunday, I said, that's one of the first times in a while I've played a golf course and just been like, this is great. This is great, great design. I loved the fact that you've got some drivable par fours. I think I don't know why courses don't have more drivable par fours because it just, it just makes for a fun experience. And some of the par 3 holes as well, fantastic. So I said to them, I just hope I get to play it more than twice. Unfortunately, I played it about
18
9 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess for the benefit of our listeners, I mean, you mentioned the injuries there, Laird. We were saying before we came on air that we briefly crossed paths in uni golf when I was, shooting 80 probably in every Bucks event I played in, and you were winning every single one. And yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say, you were pretty much dominating British universities golf for a time when you were at Stirling, just winning a lot of events. And then all of a sudden you started getting some injuries that you kind of mentioned there. Could you perhaps kind of give us a bit of a kind of explanation on that and how tough that was, kind of going through that battle of dealing with injuries, but also knowing how good your golf was, and you were kind of set on this path essentially to going and doing great things, but having it halted here and there by injury troubles?
Yeah, no, sure. So I previously to maybe even going to university, but my first few years at university, I think my second year started to have some sort of lower right hand side back pain, and tried to change a few things to combat that. So I mean, I think I missed maybe a couple months here, a couple months there, sort of thing during that year. Then managed to sort of get things sorted out for a while. I think 2017 in summer I played great, and then I think I got picked for England actually to go and play the Dutch Junior Open. So it was like a second, third tier England's team, but it was playing for England. So that was pretty cool. And I was so disappointed when I got there. I basically started having back pain and couldn't really play properly. So I mean, after that, I had 2 months off, and then it was sort of that cycle for the first sort of 3 years of my university career. Really, ended up getting into a bit of a rhythm. Body felt okay, and 2018 was where I was starting to play some of my best stuff. I won 3 events in pretty quick succession. I won the British University's finals, Bucks finals, by 13 shots. And
it was nuts. I mean, as I said, it was absolutely nuts. I mean, it's not an exaggeration to say how well you were playing.
I mean, I was playing some of the best golf I've ever played, and honestly was thinking about potentially turning pro at the end of that year had things continued to go in that direction. Then sort of midway through 2018 during the summer, started to have just sort of a bit of left knee pain, didn't really think anything of it. And with my sort of history of injuries, I didn't really want to think anything of it because I just thought, well, I hope it goes away. It didn't. Basically started struggling with my short game, especially. I don't know whether that was linked to my knee. I think it probably was. So I ended up having to get something done about it because I couldn't really swing properly anymore. My knee wasn't behaving like it should have done. So I ended up having a relatively minor operation on my left knee in November 2018. So a meniscus repair basically in my left knee. Didn't really get that much guidance after it. Didn't really probably do everything I needed to do. Just thought, well, I'll just rest up and do a bit of rehab and it'll be fine. And it was for about 2 weeks. So we went out to Dubai in January of 2019. It felt absolutely fine. I thought, this is great. I've got like a brand new left knee. Then came back and in the cold and stuff, and it then deteriorated pretty big time. Tried to play a few events start of that year, just was in quite a lot of discomfort. So then basically spent the whole of my summer in 2019 rehabbing my left knee. So not really what you want to be doing during the middle summer months is sitting in the gym, but managed to sort of get over that. Then played 2 or 3 events at the end of 2019, and then sort of had been struggling, I mean, with sort of back issues after that. And then in February 2020, was playing our first event of the year in Portugal, and just had to walk off after, I think, during my third round, just because I couldn't swing the golf club because of my back. So then sort of you're back to the drawing board again. So it was quite difficult to take, because when you've had sort of three or four pretty long layoffs, your game is obviously not benefiting from that. You can't practice properly. It's difficult. And you've always, every time it happens, I had this sort of, reinforcement of, I don't think your body's cut out to do this, sort of thing. So it was like a pretty difficult few years, really. I mean, I suppose I always sort of had help with it, and I was always working towards getting better, physically getting better. So that was the only thing that really kept me going, to be honest.
I guess it's tough, isn't it, when you've got that contrast of just blisteringly good golf, as you say there, when you winning so many events by huge margins that you're playing in and getting on a run, and then just being halted by injury. And in a way, I mean, it's a really nice story that you've kind of come back from those injuries. Sounds like you've been through the ringer there. Anyone listening to that would definitely agree. And you've won an event that is probably the most grueling on the body of any event, amateur or professional, that you could play on. I mean, playing up in really, really windy conditions at Nairn, playing however many rounds you ended up playing, I don't know, there's 7, 8, 9, and actually, going to you're going pretty far in a lot of those matches, going to the sort of 17th, 18th hole, going to the 38th hole in the final. I bet that feels pretty awesome, knowing that, when you're kind of on the biggest stage that you've been in, like the body held up, and like you played some really, really good golf.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's, it's probably as well part of why it was quite an emotional sort of victory, because I would not have been able to do that. I've sort of written it off the fact that I would ever be able to play that much golf. So, and with if you want to turn professional, for example, you've got to be able to play 6, 7, 8 weeks in a row if you want to make it off, the respective, whatever tour it is, Challenge Tour, Corn Ferry Tour. You've got to be able to handle, traveling and playing a lot of golf. And obviously to be able to play like 10 rounds in 6 days was brilliant. And, it was just a case of sort of searching and trying to find the answers and what to do and what's going to fix me, basically. So to have found something that works it's pretty crucial, because, if it had taken maybe a year longer to find those sort of the secret recipe for me, for example, I don't think I would have stuck with it probably for that much longer. So just grateful that, I guess you can look at it as in I've wasted 2.5 years, but you can also look at it as that's been a huge learning curve for me, and it's led to me making the necessary changes that's probably going to allow me to actually have a career in golf. So
yeah, that's awesome. I mean, aside from the mental fortitude, I guess, that you have to cultivate when you're spending that much time off, what, if you don't mind me asking, what were the other changes you sort of made? Was it more time in the gym? Was it some swing changes? What did you go about doing differently?
So, I mean, touch wood at the moment, it's been changing my golf swing, basically.
Yeah.
And I did that with the help of actually someone that I grew up playing golf with. So it was kind of a strange, paths crossing at the right time situation. I was down at home in January, and this guy had just started sort of coaching. And, he said to me, "Oh, just try setting up like this." And I thought, okay, well, he always does this sort of stuff to me. So I'm like, okay, fine, Tom, I'll go along with it. And I hit a few shots, and I was like, wow, Tom, that's actually really pretty good. And so I ended up, I've been working with him ever since. And, it's more general movement stuff. It's not really specific, positions or anything, but that's been a huge key. Because, the thing you do most is hit the golf ball. So if you want to limit injury, then make sure you're doing that as effectively as possible. And then just doing the right things in the gym. I think I fell into the trap that I think I see a lot of pros have gone through maybe 2 or 3 years ago, when strength and conditioning comes on the scene. You think it's the absolute right thing to do. You're going to get stronger equals you're going to get less risk of injury. But that wasn't the case for me. The heavier I lifted and the more I worked, and I went through a stage of working out every day because it was like my only thing I could do. So I thought, well, I'm going to do this as much as possible and then I'll be okay. And I never quite really worked out. So but I'm sure it's different. It's different for everyone. But for me, that was what worked. So.
And obviously, since the win of the amateur, you must have had an outpouring of love and support from people. How's that been, getting all the messages and all the weird podcasters message you asking if you want to come on? How's that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big serotonin boost when you look at your phone and see all the new followers. I'm not really one that's I've tried basically not to have social media on my phone for the last sort of year. So I did have Instagram on my phone when I won. So I ended up getting a lot of sort of notifications on that. And you get a lot of people. Some people will say, "Oh, you've never met me, but I watched it on live stream and I just want to say, like, well done," which is pretty amazing. And it's great that it was on live stream because it brings so much more people to watch golf, which is obviously a great thing. I feel slightly conflicted maybe about all the people that message you, because obviously they're just saying well done because they're happy for you, and you obviously get people that you haven't heard from a while, which is fine. But you do have this. I have this slight feeling of, well, my circle is pretty small. I don't speak to a whole lot of people, so you do get people that are very quick to say well done, but obviously wouldn't be there for you for the other 12 months, which is fine because I wasn't doing anything spectacular. I'm not going to text you say well done in the gym today, but it's just like, I guess it's a fact of life that when you do well, people are going to message you. But I think some people might rely on that more than others, and I certainly wouldn't have minded if no one messaged me. But it's nice to hear from the nicest ones, to be honest. Actually, we're hearing from teachers at school, from my primary school that you haven't spoken to for like 20 years, and they say, "Oh, I watched you on YouTube," and that's the good ones, because a few of the people from that school, they got me into golf, and so to sort of give them that to cheer about almost feels like giving back a little bit to them. So
yeah, that's amazing. I mean, it must be a strange one for you, because you obviously played the amateur and there was a limited crowd there, but then I watched it online, and you're watching, certainly as it was coming down the stretch, 3,500 people all tuning in, which you couldn't have been aware of from where you were. So I suppose that takes the pressure off. But there were so many people that were engaged in that final. It was brilliant to watch. And of course, I suppose it would be remiss not to mention your girlfriend Chloe, who's also had a spectacular win recently, having been through the ringer herself, having lost the Scottish Women's Amateur in 2019 to then prevail in 2021 at Gullen. I mean, how important was she sort of on your shoulder throughout the day?
Yeah, I mean, she is been such an asset to me golf wise, let alone obviously just having her there as emotional support. But she's she was in my ear obviously during lunch saying that it's not over, and just sort of seeing her around the golf course was nice. It's strange how golf works. Obviously, we've both maybe been not satisfied, let's say, with our golf over the last sort of year and a half potentially. I mean, Chloe played well last year in the British, but that was literally the only event she could play in. which is difficult. So I think it's just strange how it works. How she won 2 weeks ago and I won 2 weeks after her. It's almost like, if she hadn't won, maybe I wouldn't have won. And she does things golf wise a lot differently to me. But that's also an asset because you get a sort of different perspective on things. And obviously she's been a sort of rock with helping me through sort of the ups and downs of injury and obviously having someone like her around during COVID and stuff, just having company and someone that you trust and is really useful. So
And I've got to ask a really, really unfair question, and you don't have to answer, but which one are you looking forward to? St. George's, the Masters, or Brookline? Which one are you looking forward to the most?
I mean, I've got to be honest. I mean, the Masters,
Yeah.
because it's Augusta. It's just the whole story around that place. You speak to anyone who likes sport, they love the Masters. To think I'll be playing the Masters, let alone just getting to play Augusta, is going to be amazing. Yeah, I mean that, and the coolest thing about that as well, I think, is that that when you're playing in those events, that it's never ever going to be harder than that. It's never going to be more challenging. US Open, for example, you're never going to play a golf tournament that's as difficult as that. Whereas, as an amateur, you're always sort of guessing, like, if Tour Pro played around here, what would they shoot or what would the winning score be? I wouldn't have to wonder that. I'll know, like, concrete. That's what the level is, and hopefully that'll help me sort of plan to how I'm going to get better. So.
Yeah, what's the plan over the sort of coming months, and dare I say even kind of beyond that? How are you looking at things going forward?
With the Open, to be honest, it feels so close that the game plan for that is just to try and prepare as well as possible. The nice thing is that I have played St. George's a lot. So I know the golf course. Obviously, it's going to be set up, maybe in a slightly different way than it has been previously to when I've played it. I mean, I played a British amateur there. Must be 4 or 5 years ago now. But there's nothing new they're going to throw out there. The tee boxes are going to be where they usually are. And, the course is obviously going to be in great condition, and the fairways might be a bit narrower, but there's nothing too difficult to try and organize myself for. So that's nice. In terms of longer term plan, that's what I've been trying to work out really the last sort of 4 or 5 days. You look at guys who've won the British before, and you see that what they ended up playing in the sort of year after they won. They don't really tend to have time to play too many amateur events. So, but it's something that I really want to do. I want to win a stroke play event before I turn pro. I just feel like stroke play is the sort of the main thing really. So you got to be able to win tournaments in both sort of categories, I suppose. But I think depending on how things go, but my plan would be probably to turn pro at the end of next year, obviously after I've played the US Open. And then, I don't know whether this year I'm going to be able to get across to play the US Amateur. But definitely want to play that before I turn pro as well. So whether that be this year or the end of next year. And then, hopefully by the end of 2020, sort of the world has hopefully come to a bit of more normality. European Tour School again this year is not happening, so which wasn't really in my mind anyway. But hopefully 2020 European Tour School will be back on, and hopefully I'll be able to play well in the majors that going to play in, and sort of get some traction from that, and just see where we can sort of get ourselves into, I suppose. So, yeah.
I mean, what a sentence. Let's see how I play in the majors that I play. Laird Shepherd, you have been an absolute star. You've been phenomenal. We wish you all the luck in the future in the majors that you do play. And thank you very much for coming on the podcast. It's been great speaking to you.
No worries. Thanks for having me on, and keep up the good work.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Watch this.